Girl Space, episode 721. Wow, we've gone a long way already, and today we are honored to have another amazing speaker, um, Miss Camira, and who will be sharing with us her experience, challenge, her journey in STEM. And I believe, girls, you're ready to learn today from her. And don't forget, the forum is always open for you to drop your questions, chat, and then the speakers are here to always listen to you and give response to your questions as girls. So if you're connecting on YouTube, feel free to drop your comments, questions, and then of course we'll be attending to that. Yep. So today we'll be talking about yeah. Sorry, just give me a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, so as we proceed, I'll just love us to do a bit of tidying in case anyone is joining in. Please, if you're joining in, we would like you to mute your microphones during the talk show, please. We also want you to know that this show is recorded and is uploaded. It is going to be uploaded also on our other social media platforms, already streamed live on YouTube. So you can always have access to it, watch, like, subscribe, and share with your girls, your friends, and others out there. So if you're out there as a woman in STEM and you are interested and passionate about making impact in the life of girls, please don't hesitate to contact us for an opportunity to host one of the sections. So if you're also having a school and you want us to host a section in your school with the girls, please do well to also reach out to us. So as we communicate here today to learn from the journey of Miss Camira Ruta, please would like you to drop a message, your chats, your questions if you have any. Do well to drop them at the chat box or drop if you're watching live. You can always drop at the on the comment section on social media, and of course we're going to attend to those things and forward across responses. So if you're experiencing connection problems, please enable open with mode and reduce your video quality. Thanks for waiting. Okay, so we're proceeding. Women, as we know, are no less than any man in any field. Over time, we've seen several examples of women excelling in various STEM fields and serving the society for a larger cause. We at the STEM Girls Initiative aim to groom girls with the same kind of aspiration and zeal at their hearts to excel in STEM fields and do their best. This talk show is a platform for the women in STEM to talk to the girls, aspiring to excel in it. We're sure that after hearing from the guests today, so during this talk show, we will be conversing with a woman in the fields of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, a woman who has made her marks and have now taken the time to graciously tell us her journey and share with us her wisdom. So please stay tuned as we proceed. So we're doing a brief intro of our speaker for today. Karima is an exceptional woman in STEM. Throughout her bidding career, she's won many awards, including both not limited, researcher, medical assistant, dance captain, and fundraiser coordinator. She has also and AI plays and has also worked with various academic departments at the University of Fradira. I hope I'm pronouncing that well, right?
Florida. But yeah, you were
Yeah,
close.
including, you're right. Okay,
Florida.
including the African American Studies program and the College of Journalism. Her curiosity about data gradients had led her to study pandemic related advertising changes and co anchor a paper about chemical trends in fish vaccination, and currently for a medical school, applying in a medical school. Camera hopes to integrate her diverse experience into her future career as uh, a physician, and in her free time, she enjoys visiting cafe shops uh, with a new book, learning new styles, and sharing jokes with her family. And I'm sure friends are also inclusive. Yeah. So well done, and thank you for the beautiful work you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So we'll be proceeding to the questions. So, would like you to tell us about yourself. Um, what has inspired you to becoming a woman in STEM that you are today?
Yeah, sure. So a little bit about me. I currently graduated. I've graduated from the University of Florida, I think in 2023. And during this gap year that I'm taking, I was a medical assistant. I also worked on my research paper and currently applying to master's programs and medical programs side by side, while also doing research on the back end. And I think what led me to a career in STEM was honestly the intellectual curiosity that it provided me. From an early age, I often asked my parents a lot of different questions. Sometimes they had the answer, sometimes they needed the help of Google. But I think that curiosity is what naturally led me into STEM, because specifically science was something that really intrigued me, like how do things work and how does the human body function in the way that it does, which is why I decided to pursue a career in the field.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. So interesting to learn about that journey. All right. So our next question is, who inspired you to become who you are today?
Oh my goodness, that is a difficult question because I think there are many people who have inspired me throughout the way. Um,
Okay.
I think every day, for everyday matters, I think my mom inspires me. Just the way that she talks and the way that she's diplomatic, able to figure out any situation that's thrown at her. I guess in the career field, I looked to people who were in the STEM field and pursued the passions that I wanted to do. So, one physician that I look up to is Susan Coven. She's currently a medical physician at Harvard. But I think what really drew me to get some inspiration from her was the fact that she was not only a physician, but she also wrote a lot about her experiences. And I think through reading about her experiences, I identified with a lot of aspects of it. Um, she kind of talked about her, you know, how medicine at that point in time when she applied in around the 1970s, I'd say maybe 1980s. Don't quote me, but it was a little far back. And at that time, there weren't as many women in the medical profession. She was saying that in her class, there were maybe a handful of women in the field, whereas there were a lot of men that she had as classmates. And so she kind of talked about her experiences there, what it took to become the person that she is. And I think where I kind of benefit from it is the fact that now I have her perspective. But on top of that, I also am in an environment and we're in an age today where it's we're not the minority per se. There's still a lot of work to get done, don't get me wrong, but there are more females who are pursuing medicine. There are more people in the class. So I think that per se, I guess where I get my inspiration from are those two ladies.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Okay, so can you tell us about the difficult situations, challenges you have overcome in pursuing a career in STEM as a woman, particularly in your field? I'm pretty sure there might be some setbacks and all. So can you share with us those challenging times?
Actually, I'll tell you something. It wasn't necessarily a challenge in my own life. I think I've been very blessed where my parents have always taught me to, go after what I want, whether it be in the STEM field or any other field for that matter. And I think I've also grown up in a very modern environment, so to say, where a lot of the women around me have also had that same teaching. So it wasn't
Mm,
necessarily a challenge per se to pursue STEM. As at least I wouldn't
mm,
say that it's because I'm a woman. But I also
mm,
understand how privileged I am to say that because I remember there were a few friends of mine who come from villages in India, and they were talking about how they had met up with some of the friends that they had in the village and how, they were told that this may be the last time they're going to speak to them
mm.
because after that they'll get married. And when I heard that, I was very shocked because it's something that I had never encountered. Like it's not something that you say
Encountered.
in general, at least here in conversation. The goal always is to go to high school, go to college, pursue a field, pursue a degree. And so to
Mm,
hear that was very intriguing to me, but at the same time, it reminded me of how privileged I was. As
mm,
for the setbacks that I've faced, it's not necessarily, I think it's not setbacks if you perceive them to be. Like, for example, I didn't expect to pursue another gap year, but it kind of worked out to be a blessing in disguise because now I'm, pursuing another research project. So I think it's also whether you look at the glass half empty or half full. And I always look at it half full. I think that's the best way to be. Um, so yeah.
wow, that's amazing. Okay, so tell me, what about those experiences you've learned from this challenge? I mean, what about the how which of this challenge has actually you've actually learned from as an like you've picked it as an experience, and which has actually pushed you for pursuing a career in medical as a medical researcher and also obtaining maybe degrees in biology and anthropology.
I think the challenges per se were in the small subjects. So when I was pursuing a degree in biology, most of the subjects curated around biology, like the, physiology, anatomy classes, I was able to understand them. And so, it wasn't that difficult for me to, you know, con do well on the exams. But where I did struggle was in completing physics and chemistry, organic chemistry specifically. I think, what gave me a little bit of reprieve, not reprieve, but I think what made me feel better was the fact that I wasn't alone. There were a lot of people, boys and girls together. It wasn't just girls, but a lot of us kind of struggled in those specific fields. Because the way that they're taught at the university level is not medically inclined. You look at the field in total. Um, and I've
Hmm.
never really been one to love physics. So I think what really helped me in that matter was having like a good study group. And that's something that I would actually advise for a lot of people. I think what that made me realize is that for me, at least for pursuing subjects or certain projects that I may not be a huge fan of, but have to conduct in order to get to the step and the level that I want to be at, I need accountability. And that comes from having a good study group and having a good plan. But most importantly, also having people who are going to ask, like, have you finished that? Did you forget this? Okay, if you didn't know this, let's figure this out. So I think just having those people along the way is really important, and that's where I really emphasize friendships within the STEM field. And it doesn't have to be like, just your girlfriends. It can be like, a co-ed group that come from different fields too. Because then I think that also enriches your perspective, and it also gives you an understanding of life in general.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
okay, so um, uh, um, uh, but what about when we talk about girls instead? Do you think there's actually a social problem that has been limiting girls fully participating in these fields?
Actually, yes, indirectly. So when it comes to obtaining an education in the medical field, I don't think, or at least from my experiences, I can't speak for everyone, but in my own experiences, I don't think there have been any social setbacks that, oh, you're a woman, you shouldn't go into the field, this is not for you. Nothing like that in that manner. But what I've seen is that in America, at least, the medical process is 4 years of college. 4 years of medical school, 3 to 5 years of residency, and then you become a full-fledged doctor. So by the time you're a doctor, you're around 35, 33 to 35, I would say you're in that bracket. And the issue arises where, you're building up your career, but your biological clock is ticking at the same time. And so it's, I think, societally driven, but also internally as a woman, you think, oh no, I want to have a family, I want to have kids. How do I manage both? And the thing is that, not a lot of everyone asks the woman how they're able to balance life and work, but no one really asks the man. And that question is kind of a representation of how it's seen in society too. A lot of the woman and a lot of the time when you're raising a child, the responsibility often bears on the woman. And so kind of managing how to do both at the same time is I wouldn't say a problem per se, but it's a challenge that a lot of women have faced. And from the female physicians that I've spoken to, they have either encountered or not encountered, but they have kind of overcome that challenge by either having their eggs frozen, which is something that a lot of the female physicians kind of encourage the younger generation to do, just in case, just a little backup plan. Number two, at least, my own physician has kind of talked to me about this and has said that for her, it was kind of her husband was also a physician. So they both were on a very limited schedule. They're on a very time restrictive schedule. And so what she said was that she had a lot of help from her parents and like she had a nanny. And, she said that a lot of people, not specifically to her, but she did understand that there was a bit of a discrepancy per se. Some people thought, oh, you need a nanny, you can't really raise a child, but you can't think of it like that, right? You have to be able to balance both. And if a nanny helps you out and is able to, make sure that your child is safe when you're, saving a patient's life, I think it's all, I don't think there should be any discrimination faced towards that. I think it should be understood. So those were the two kind of solutions per se to the societally driven issue that I think women still face. And I think that's going to be something that's not only, specific to medicine or STEM for that matter. I think it's a collective issue that we are facing as a society.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, so what can be done when we talk about this? Now we've seen that these are outlying issues that we have seen. Sometimes some of the setbacks is as a result of the beliefs, perceptions, and how people perceive as far, like I say, especially in this part of Nigeria, we have a society where some particular girls who are born into family that are not well to do are limiting their kids, their children from even accessing education, having full access to education, but not even talking about the aspect of them even making decisions for them. Yeah, yes, they make decisions for them as to what to study. Okay, fine, I've gotten the funds, I want to send my kids to school. Definitely nobody will want to send a child. Some of them that are not well educated will not want their kids to actually go for STEM. Sorry about that, because the belief STEM is meant for the men alone, so it's men dominated. And for instance, your daughter just wake up and say, I want to become a medical doctor, and you scream, why? That's a field for men, and that is why we're having a kind of um, low percentage of girls participating in that field. So now we've identified this challenge. How do we overcome them? How can we help the girls come out of it?
Well, I think to answer that question, it's a bit of, I think we have to understand that the problem is not, um, it can't be covered by just one solution that can be given in one sentence, right? There are many things that are happening within that issue. One is societally based, and also I would say mentally. You believe a certain way, and society also has been geared in a certain way. So it's going to be difficult to change that mentality. And as we've seen, I think not only in the past, but also what's going around us, mentalities are very difficult to change. It's very difficult to unlearn, and you need to have a motivation to do that. Um, so I think one step would be to just kind of highlight what comes out of a girl's education. I think what people have to recognize is the fact that when you are teaching a girl, you're not just teaching her, you're teaching an entire family. And there's when you look at children, a child's upbringing for that matter, they look to both the father and the mother.
That's true.
It's not just the father. So
Yeah.
I think that's one aspect. Number two, I think it's also looking at it from, I think if I'm not mistaken, and you can correct me on this, do Nigerian schools ask for a tuition fee, like to attend?
Yeah, we have. Yeah, we have schools, especially for the private. The
Yeah,
government schools have, I think, just limited funds to pay, and not all kids might be able to afford those bills in school. So that is why they were having some of those lapses.
which is why I think you guys are such an amazing initiative, by the way, just providing the resources that a woman could, or a child for that matter, could need to be able to access the education that is her right. I think that is, I think government initiatives, then in that case, again, I'm not familiar with the terrain, so I can only say so much, but I think what it seems like is that government initiatives should be made in order to educate women. um, you know, be that, maybe lowering the tuition, but making it accessible. So I think that's the second step. But I think the third and fourth step kind of go hand in hand. But I think the third step would be to um, create accessibility, not just in, government schooling, but also I think in the resources that a person has. Just recently I was reading about so many international scholarships that are allotted to the girl child. And I think, it's those scholarships aren't known to a lot of people. So I think pressing and focusing on having that accessibility is important, along with, the general educational aspect of it, and also having the resources to be able to obtain the education, whether in school, that's, having the right uniform or getting the right pencils and papers. But also, I think one aspect that has kind of changed in society is that, the internet is offering a lot of different tuition, is offering a lot of resources to understand topics that may be difficult to read on the textbook. So then you're explained
Exactly.
the topic in such a way, in a way that maybe that you may be able to understand. So I think that's something that we should
Mm,
lean. I think a lot of people are nowadays. YouTube, everyone, it's free. It's easy to, kind of type in what you want and just, find a bunch of videos, um, that, you are then able to choose from. So I think that is a change that I'm seeing, but I do believe that, societally and also, um, accessibility would be, I think, the two steps that I would take. But I would also say that there are other factors to be considered, in this, issue.
well, thank you so much for sharing that. One thing I've picked from this is the fact that topics are really much. Most times, some of the schools, especially I could remember while I was still in secondary school in my JS, we had about 14 to 15 subjects. And then your parents, what if your parents are unable to afford all the books for those 14 subjects? It's one of it that affects some of the girls that ended up maybe going to hog and leaving school for one thing or the other. At the end of the day, they just land themselves into bigger troubles that might make them end up not returning back to school. So this is one of the challenging things, and I believe we need people out there to help communicate this. And of course, this is very important. Please let subjects be reduced so that we can easily learn and these girls can grab something. Imagine having, okay, in a day we have 6 subjects to offer, and this teacher is coming in, another is going, no time for rest, not even extra external like curriculum activities that could just like games that would just get the skills entire and then maybe continue to push forward. So I think this is one thing we need to advocate for. Please, for those of you watching us, and I know you have a school or you have this, we need to work towards reducing some of these things so that it will help these girls have easy access and easy assimilation. They can easily learn fast and have some timing for themselves, maybe special timing for rest, where they can always fall back to whatever they've learned during the first second period, and then have some assessment for themselves and also move forward. Yeah, so our next question is
No,
our
that's
next
really well
question
said.
would all right. So, and next question is: are there skills required to becoming a medical researcher, a physician, and naturopathy, and all? So, just let us know what are those things that those skills that these skills need to becoming whom you are.
Honestly, I think it's a skill that you need to apply to any subject for that matter, which is hard work. You need to be able to put in the work because, like I said previously in the interview, you are going to have either subjects or you are going to have projects that might be a little difficult for you to, understand at first glance. And it might, take you a setback. You might question, do I really want to do this or not? But you just have to push forward. So
Mhm.
having that discipline and having that hard work is really important. Specifically for a physician and a medical assist researcher and slash assistant, I think being able to multitask and have good time management is really important. I can say that from my skills of being a medical assistant, that a lot of no day would be the same. You would have a set schedule, but don't expect it to be completely followed to the T. There is always going to be something or another that happens. Either an email comes and the doctor needs to immediately respond to it. And so you need to creatively find a way to be able to add that into the schedule. Or a patient may walk in and she may need something just at that moment. And you need to find a way to prioritize, okay, which patient needs to see the doctor first. Um, so little things like that, I think being able to be comfortable with, or being comfortable with unfamiliarity, I think that's really important. And I can say the same thing for being a physician too. Like I said, no one day is going to be the same and no case is going to be the same.
Of course.
So
Yeah.
yeah, you're going to have like a different treatment plan and you have to be able to, um, adapt to that. But I would also say that
Mm.
as a medical researcher, and like I said, I think as a physician as well, being able to communicate really well is super important because, even though you are familiar with all of the medical terminology, that doesn't mean your patient will be, especially when it's, a very long kind of word like atherosclerosis. Like that's going to be very difficult for a patient to kind of understand what that is. And so being able to break it down so that they are able to not only understand what the, diagnosis is, but also realize what it's doing to the body. And that way find a way to properly treat it. I think that is really important. And like I said, it also works in the medical researcher role because you are also kind of doing the same thing, but you have some leeway because you get to write it. So you're able to take your time, look on the internet, make sure what you're saying actually makes sense, and maybe have some peers also who look at your work. But also, I think curiosity is really important for both of those professions. Just because, you have to keep asking the questions and you have to be okay sometimes with not having a direct answer. That's what I think being a physician and being a medical researcher in its true form is. You have to keep questioning and you have to keep working to try to find an answer, specifically in medical research, because you're trying to, find a cure or a treatment. And it's not going to be, you write one paper and it's award winning and you find the cure for cancer. That's not how it works, right? You have to, keep kind of hitting the pavement and keep asking creative questions and seeing how you can um, disease in a different scope so as to try to find a cure for it. And I would say the same goes in medicine as well. So yeah, I think if I were to summarize it, it would be communication, curiosity, hard work, and discipline. I think a good concoction of that is going to make you a terrific medical researcher or a medical assistant or a physician.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, of
All
course.
right. So yeah. So a lot of people might see it too difficult to actually um, get to maybe start well. Like, okay, fine, I want to become a doctor. A lot of our girls, the challenge they're having lately is that, okay, fine, I want to become a medical doctor. And then imagine a girl who wants to become a medical doctor, resting, sleeping, doesn't even have time to study and read, and these are part of the things that affects them. So even if you were studying, girls, and you tend to fail the first time, the second time, it's not enough reason to end there. It's enough reason for you to continue pursuing the dreams, continue pushing forward, and someday, you will overcome that challenge. Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
So
and
thank you very much for sharing it. This is really, really catching. Yeah.
actually, I wanted to add to what you
All
just said,
right.
if you
So
don't mind. I just had a
all
little
right.
thought that I wanted to say, at least when it comes to medicine. You said something really brilliant that, a lot of people, it's a very difficult process. But I think one thing that kind of kept me grounded was, a lot of physicians had told me that medicine is not just, 4 years, 4 years, 3 years, you're done. Medical is a lifelong journey. So, if you look at it from that point
Mm,
of view, I think you'll be fine. So I
wow.
think keep
That's
looking at it
amazing.
from that,
Thank
and
you.
you will be able to face any difficulty that you are. So if you're not able to study as much right now, that's okay, because medicine is lifelong. You have your entire life to do well on it.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for adding that. Yeah. So when you were a student, did you feel any peer pressure, especially because you're a woman? And what would you how were you able to maneuver your way out of this?
Yeah.
Peer
So
pressure, influence from friends and your peers in school.
yeah. So I think, if I recount my experiences, I can't say that I faced any negative peer pressure per se. I mean, I always had my friends kind of telling me. I think there was one chemistry exam, and this was when I first came into college, that, I we were taking a practice exam for the topic, and I thought, okay, as long as I do okay, it's fine. And she had told me no, like it's 100 marks or bust. You have to keep that mentality and mindset in hand if you want to do well. And that's something that stuck with me throughout. It's something that I try to strive for, try to do the best. And then if it doesn't happen, that's okay. Because I tried and I gave it my best. Um, so I wouldn't say any negative peer pressure because I was a girl per se. I think, like I said, I was very lucky because the college that I went to, it was co-ed. And so there were a lot of, in fact, if I remember correctly, I think there were more women instead than there were men, which I thought was very funny. Um, and I think that really gave me the push to keep going, looking at them and seeing that, okay, if they can do it, I can do it too. I shouldn't be complaining. But I will say that like I said, I think I got positive peer pressure from my friends, my study group. But I think I also got positive peer pressure in the form of my professors and my researchers. If you put the effort in, I think that will be acknowledged. And so they always used to tell me that, I think you can do this extra work as well. No, 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 give it a try, see what happens, and go from there.
All right. Wow, that's
So,
amazing. That's amazing.
yeah. But I think
All
in
right. So,
general, I would say though, if you are facing peer pressure, just understand that it's background noise. And so it's noise, it's not worth your time, you'll be fine. I think
wow.
just making sure that you have a really good and strong mentor who believes in you and is making sure that you strive for all the opportunities that you have access to and want to pursue. I think that's really important. And I would also say that having a very strong family base is important. I think, charity starts at home and so does education. I just kind of you change the quote just to like just for my own satisfaction, but I think it's really true. I think, you see like I think a lot of your education comes from your family. And so if your family is supportive of the education that you're obtaining, that makes a really big difference.
That's true. Yeah, thank you so much for that. Okay, so how can we increase girls, I mean young women participation in STEM?
I think number one is accessibility. Like, for example, you had said that, a lot of people want to go into medicine. And so I would say that medicine is not just physician. It's also physician's assistant, it's also nursing, and even within those three, and even I would say occupational therapy, optometry, which is the study of the eyes, chiropractor, I think. So the point that I'm trying to make is that, it's a very big field. And so, there's a place for everyone in it. And also, I think taking the time to realize what exactly you want to do in medicine is really important, which I think, you
Mm,
don't need to go to anyone for that. You have YouTube, you can like type out medicine subspecialties and you can go from there. There are a lot of day in the lives too, so you can get an understanding of what your life may be if you want to pursue that field. Um,
mm.
but to answer your question, I um I think that, but yeah, actually, that I think is, if you want to just repeat the question one more time, if I can remember it.
All right. Okay. So I would say the question is, how can we increase girls and young women's participation in STEM?
Yes. So coming back to that, I think number one, like I said, would be to just understand what you want to do, because I think you would be more likely to go for it if you know exactly what you want to do in your life, or have a really good understanding of what it is that motivates you and what makes you want to, what your purpose is
What
per
you
se.
want?
But I think what would
Mm,
also kind of help girls in that way is also, like I said, accessibility. I think, like I said, kind of goes hand in hand. But I would say accessibility is not simply, getting on the internet. I think accessibility is also in the form of education, but also opportunities. In medicine specifically, there's a lot of focus on your volunteering and also your research. And so I know that research labs are a little difficult to get into. I don't know how many there
okay.
are. I think there are some really esteemed and accredited ones in Nigeria. I just think that, they can be a little farther away from where you live. But I think seeking out those opportunities is important. And also, I would say that having access in the way of, like, if I want to pursue this research opportunity that is farther away, how can I do it? And also, what would happen if I get accepted? I think, people kind of try, but then when they get accepted, they may kind of come back because they don't know what's in store from them. And so having
Mm,
alumni from those programs come back and kind of create a good list of, okay, you need to find housing, you need to find this. Oh, and but for housing, you get a stipend and it's accredited, it's, affiliated with the university. If you have little tidbits like that, that can help them really understand like what they need to prepare for, per se. I think that will really help push more girls into the field. Because like I said, volunteering, research, both of them are very important in the field. And so having those opportunities, actually going for those opportunities and having those experiences will really boost your application.
wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much for that. All right. So, are there scholarships opportunities for these girls or young women who are pursuing careers in STEM?
Yeah, I believe, there are, at least like I said, I can't speak for Nigeria specifically, but I do know that there are a lot of international scholarships that are given out by the US, for people who are interested in STEM, specifically STEM fields. And I think the unique experiences that girls have in Nigeria, I think that makes for a very strong applicant. But like I said before, I would love to create a document and, like, upload it maybe on the Age Network just to like show and have, specific scholarships that are open. And if I do have,
All right.
and then maybe get access to people who are from Nigeria who have, gone like the PhD route, just have them speak about it, which I would love to give you guys access to too. I can kind of find people
Wow.
and, see if I can help out in that way.
All
But yeah,
right. Thank you so much.
yeah, I would love for that to like create a conversation, because then they know exactly, what it takes to be in
Mm,
that position. Because I can only speak for someone who was born and brought up here. But I think having
it's
someone who came from Nigeria, who came to the US for a STEM degree, I think that would be I think that, like I said, would just kind of give you more perspective and also make you understand what like you need to be prepared for when you come. Bless you.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah. All right. So, what jobs or career opportunities are there for girls who are aspiring to become medical researchers and mentors like you?
Oh, okay. So I think who want to go into, I would say if you want to go into medical research, you need to at least have a few papers behind you to be able to apply. But when like I said, there would be a lot of jobs be saying like medical scientists and all, which are great. But what I would actually encourage for a lot of women to go for is a PhD program. The PhD program, if you apply to it, I believe it would be very minimal in cost. Um, and it would be in your field of study, which you're interested in. And that would not only give you research experience, but then but it also opens up doors to go the academic realm and become a professor or become a researcher for an academic institution, which I think creates more opportunities. And also then I think you have access to better equipment, which, I think would allow for you to create a better experiment and by way generate better results. So I think that is one avenue that you can go into. As for medical assistant, I would say that if you want to go the medical assistant route, like I said, I would kind of pivot and maybe go into physician assistant. They also make a lot more money, and you're basically you're not doing the same responsibilities, but like I said, you're in the medical field. And I think you have the same kind of responsibilities per se as a doctor, except there are a few things you can't do. But for most part, yes, you're very involved in a patient's life. Um, so I would,
That's
it's a
amazing.
new and growing field. So I would also encourage a lot of women to go into that. As it comes to medicine, like I said, different fields there as well, chiropractic, PT. It's not just a medical degree. But if you want to go for that, that's
Mm,
also great. There are also medical slash PhD programs that are open and also medical slash MBA programs. So if you want to do those as well, those are also available for women. And I think especially for people who want to create a business, which may be medically involved, but it's not necessarily a practice. I think the MBA route would be an amazing option. And it also gives you more
mhm,
opportunity because then you can become an entrepreneur and have your own business by way. So that's a great route to go to. But yeah, there are
mm.
many jobs that are open, and if I become your mentor, I would love to explore them with you.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you so much. All right. So, our next question is, what would you consider to be your greatest achievement as a woman in STEM?
Ooh, greatest achievement. I don't think I've gotten there yet. I think I think temporarily, what I think I've, peaked in is actually first authoring a paper of my own. I think that right now has been very cool because it was also a lot of hard work. There was a lot of blood, sweat, and unfortunately a lot of tears that
Mm,
also went into that. So I
mm,
think that
imagine.
definitely, yeah, seriously, I think there are a lot of nights that were spent on that paper. But I think what really made me happy was not
Mm,
only the fact that it was published in a really good paper, like in a very good journal.
wow.
So the fact that it's already been cited, which I've heard is very good
Mm,
when it comes to your work. You want people to cite your work because that means that it's credible and that it was useful for other people as well. So that was very nice to see that, oh my gosh, it may be only two
mm,
people right now, but it's also only published like last week, or sorry, last month. So
mm.
that made me feel very happy. I think that's my
Wow.
biggest achievement right now. And also being a part of this organization. I started with this when I was in COVID.
That's amazing.
And I think
Mm,
starting the Woman in STEM series
mm.
in the magazine was also something that I was very proud of. Um, just because it was a very small difference that very small thing that I did actually, but I think it can, like I said, it helps girls, young girls specifically, kind of see that, okay, they made it, so I can make it too, which is something that I think has also inspired me to go into the field. Like I said earlier,
Mm,
inspiration going into medicine was seeing someone who was like me up there.
mm. Wow, that's amazing. Okay, so like you shared during the form, you made mention of mentoring some girls. And I'll just love you to share some of those challenge that you
Yes,
you
of course.
experienced during that period. Taking those girls, how was it like?
Oh my God, no, it was one of my, I think if I were to add to my like, what are my peak accomplishments, those girls would be it as well. Because the way that it
Hmm.
worked, at least in the program that I was a part of, which was through my school actually, was that you would either be an academic or a social mentor. So academic was focusing more on, how you can mentor them, in terms of which opportunities they should look into, what's available for them that they may not know about. The social aspect was mainly, I think not only communication skills, but kind of getting them out of their shell. When you enter college, you're a little, it's the first time you enter the world. And so, you kind of crawl inside and you're not really sure how to speak. So just kind of, embracing that, your personality and just kind of helping them kind of come out of their shell. That's what the social mentor is supposed to do. So I had two mentees. Let's call them Sarah and Patty, just because I don't want to give their, specific names out without their their permission. But Sarah was into speech pathology. She really looked into that, and I was her academic mentor. And my other mentee, Patty, was into physical therapy. So I ended up becoming an academic and a social mentor to both in some ways.
Hmm.
But what I think through, just kind of checking up on them, whether it be for,
Oh, that's amazing.
I think, just checking up on them before an exam. If I had that professor that they had as well, I could give them a few hints, okay, this professor kind of focuses on this topic a little more, so look into this, please. And just kind of, the volunteering opportunities that are considered prestigious at our school, just letting them know about it. Oh, you didn't get in this time. That's okay. Just give it a try. What's the worst that will happen? Just kind of nurturing that, give it a try again kind of mentality. It worked out because she got into the program. So that was great. And now I'm very proud as a mentor to say that Sarah got into IUIC for her master's in speech pathology, and Patty got into Emory for physical therapy. So it was really, I think mentoring for me is something that I love to do and something I want to do in my medical career too.
Wow, that's amazing. Well then, all right. So currently we're having global institution to solving these problems. Generally from your end, with your field as a biologist, a medical researcher, and generally in your field.
Can you repeat the question again? Sorry, you went in and out in terms of audio.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Okay. So as
Okay.
we're saying, I said, um, what has been your contribution to solving some social problems, things like insecurity in your society generally, um, from your field of study? I mean, with your work, what you've learned, how were you able to use this to solve the problem?
Yeah, sure. So I think, I wouldn't say that I, completely cured cancer. So I wouldn't say my contribution was that big. But I think, the little things that I saw, I tried to, contribute either my time or my work into. So for example, as a medical researcher, I was able to co-author that paper, which, I was my little contribution into research. And also, I think it really taught me what it means to persevere. Um, as for a medical assistant, I think, the doctor that I worked with, she was a little older. So, being able to help her out just, it made me feel very happy. And even though it wasn't, like I said, a big contribution, it still was one in my eyes, because I made her life easier. But I think that opportunity kind of made me more confident in the medical field because up until then, I had prior healthcare experience, but I always had someone kind of looking out for me and just checking my work. And so, when you become a medical assistant, then that responsibility is yours. It's your name that's put on that document. And you have very little room of fact checking that goes around, right? Because you're entrusted with that position. And so I think that kind of, made me, I think it made me more confident because at first I was a little, unsure whether or not I would be able to do it. But since as I was doing it again and again, you build that momentum and rhythm and you just become better at your work. So I think consistency, patience, and confidence is what was taught to me through my medical assistant position. Um, and as for anthropology, it was a very small thing that we did, but there was a medical anthropology kind of lab, but essentially it was a book club where we would go through various papers, and just kind of talk about it in class, which was our lab. But there was no lab equipment. Like I said, it was just a book club. But I think that made me very, I think it was my first stepping stone into research. Because it was after that that I co-authored the paper. So I think not being afraid of the information and kind of being, I think familiarized with the format and also the way it's supposed to be written was kind of done through anthropology. So even though it wasn't a mark, I think specifically on anthropology, it's what the professor was able to do to us, was able to do for us as anthropologists. And I think, like I said, it also gave me a better worldview of like how to incorporate anthropology into different fields. It's very minute. I think, my interest in how social gradients help in medicine is a way of like showing anthropology. Or it's how I kind of contribute to anthropology per se, a medical anthropology. So yeah, I think that was kind of my contributions to the field. But I think that what I would also look at those experiences as are ways in which I was able to grow myself. Don't just look at how you contribute, look at how it contributes to yourself. And that's kind of what I tried to do. So yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Well done. Well done for the great work you're doing. Yeah. Okay, so during your studies, what did you find enticing? You know, some
Can you
of those programs are they are interested in that has pushed you in pursuing your career in STEM?
can you repeat the question again? You kind of went in and out. I'm really sorry about this.
Can you
I'll
hear
try to
me?
lower my, yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, so I said during your studies, what did you find enticing? It's okay. All right. So okay. All right. So what did you find enticing while you were in school? Were there kind of programs, games that
Okay, so
captured
I found specifically
your
enticing. There were
interest
two things actually that I think were
and
very
has helped you pursue your career in STEM?
okay. All right. So I think there were, sorry, you had cut out, which is why I started
I hope
speaking.
you can
Sorry
hear
if
me,
that.
right?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you now. Sorry about that though
Hello.
before for the miscommunication. But yes, answering your question, I think there were two subfields that I found very enticing in my degree, or not degree, but I think in the field that I wanted to study in medicine, was one kind of looking at geriatrics, which is basically the study
It's
of the
okay.
elderly population.
Yeah.
So the elderly are susceptible
Yeah.
to specific diseases like Alzheimer's and dementia related diseases. And so my work at Elder Care and Al's Place kind of helped me explore that a little more. At Al's Place, I was basically a volunteer. And so all I did was basically talk to the elderly who, had Alzheimer's, but I wasn't, it was great because I was able to play ball games, but I also kind of saw the symptoms of Alzheimer's through how they spoke and just their general mannerisms. So I think it prepared me for the field, but at the same time, it kind of piqued my interest. So that's why when I finished at Al's Place, I decided to go to Elder Care, which is basically the big branch of Al's Place, which basically handles Al's Place, and kind of work as a intern there. That's actually where I was a fundraising volunteer, and I raised money for a golf tournament, which was going to improve the facility where Al's Place is. So that was kind of my little contribution. It got me interested in geriatrics, which is what I'm thinking of pursuing in the medical field as of right now. The second thing that I'm kind of interested in is how arts interacts in medicine. And so, like I said, when I was at elder care, I had access to the elderly population. And what I saw was that at that center, almost weekly or bi-weekly, there would be a dance class that would happen for the elderly. And what I saw was that there was, there was a lot of interest in that class. And the reason for that was actually because it was their favorite form of exercise. And so it made me think for a second that, a lot of the diseases that we see in medicine are preventative in the sense that if you exercise and if you eat correctly, you're able to avoid it. Now, I understand, there are more factors than that. There's also a genetic component to that. But generally, I feel like if you're doing that, you should be okay. And so seeing the elderly do that was really interesting, and it kind of piqued my interest to seeing like how dance can help in preventing um, prion related diseases, or whether it's able to prevent the onset of dementia. And so that's a field, I guess, it goes hand in hand with geriatrics, but just seeing how art intersects with medicine is something I'm really interested in. And I've also kind of seen that in how the physician conducts themselves in front of the patient. Like I said before, when you are in front of a patient and you're telling them about their diagnosis, it's very hard to understand the medical terminology. But if you explain it creatively in a way that they're able to understand it, I think, that in and of itself is an art that I would love to hopefully one day become a master of.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, amazing. Yeah, thank you. This is really insightful. Insightful. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so, what's gonna be your advice to girls who are aspiring to become STEM women and mentors like you?
Tina, I think you cut out. We try to lower the quality. I think that's supposed to help.
Oh,
Video settings.
hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Hello? Yeah, I think that was network. Okay, so as we wrap up, what's going to be your last word? I mean, what of advice for girls who are aspiring to pursue a career in STEM?
Yeah, so I think what I would tell them is
I hope you
to,
can hear me, right?
yes, I can hear you. And I also heard the question, so we're doing good. But I think what I would tell to the women who are aspiring to be in STEM is to don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
Okay,
Be
so
confident.
to these girls out there who are aspiring like you,
Say it again, Martina. Sorry. I think the question that you asked was what I would tell to women who are pursuing a career in STEM, right? Mm, yes. Okay, cool. Okay, perfect. So I think what I would say to that is to be confident in yourself, number one. I think what a lot of girls may face is maybe this feeling of incompetency or maybe thinking that they're not good enough for
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Don't think of it like that. I think you are smart and have the capability, and the things that you may not be as great at, it's okay. We'll work on it. We'll keep getting better. And I think the fact that and also put in the hard work. So I think it would be like 2 to 3 pieces of advice. So I'm kind of, taking kind of freestyling Matina's question here. So, but what I would say is to, know that you got this. Be confident in your own capabilities. Know that you can get better, and you will if you need to. Number two, put in the effort, work hard. And it's not just, saying that you'll work hard. Genuinely feel that exhaustion. Because on the days that I have felt exhaustion, I felt like, okay, I'm doing okay. I'll get here somehow. And I think it also reduces the stress because whenever I feel stressful, if I'm putting in the work, kind of reduces it, or maybe it just takes my mind off of it. But it's a two-way situation, I think. And number three is to don't let anyone tell you otherwise. You can do this. There have been people who have done it before. Reach out to them. If you don't know who they are, that's what we're here for. We're here to get you connected. We're here to create, and help you carve a path for yourself. So yeah, those are my
Wow.
3 pieces of advice.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. I believe our girls that are listening and those are going to be connecting later to watch are going to learn from this. And thank you so much for coming on the call. So, as we come to the conclusion, I just want to take a little time to say a very big thank you to our amazing partners who have made this program a success. I want to say a very big thank you to NGCSW for their support, African Women Development Fund, Matrix Chambers, Go Hopes International Trade Limited, uh, Benefiti. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for being there for us. And we want all of you out there, you own a school and you're a girl, you want to become a STEM girl, please place a call through. The floor is open for you to reach out at any time. We're always available to hear you as a girl. Join the school club. You can join us on the school club. And also, if you own a school, you can always reach out for us to organize and set up a school club in your school. And this is going to be a forum for your girls to learn and then improve their careers in STEM subjects as the two, and then helping them to do their best in schools. So we're open for you to reach out to us on our emails on the screen. You can see STEM girls at agenetwork.org, or you can reach us, you can follow us, you can like, and always subscribe for to our YouTube channel for more updates on sections like this and more classes. Earlier this morning, this afternoon, we just had a section on mathematics, helping girls overcome the fear for math. So wanted to also um, be aware of this. And then you have a girl out there who is struggling with maths, please, the forum is here for them to always reach out to us through Facebook at thehnetwork.org or STEM Girls NG, or you can WhatsApp or call 080-331-50904 or 080-627-626-8. Please do well to reach out, and then don't forget to continue. Stay tuned to watch, learn, and also subscribe to our channel